Hey everybody, this is Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and I'm getting ready to go into probably my last comic book show of the year. It's the same one I keep going to about every month or so down in Annandale, Virginia. It's at a little firehouse. I've been to it before. There's times when I've picked up a lot of books, and there's times when I've picked up very few books. It is a comic book show and a sports card show all together, so the room's pretty small, so there's not a lot of dealers for comic books, but the ones that are here are usually really good, and you can usually find some pretty good things. I'm looking forward to seeing what I'm going to get today. I will try to do a little bit of footage, but the main thing is going to be what books do I pick up for my, probably, like I said, my last show of the year. So stay tuned for some footage, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, first off, I want to apologize. I did not shoot any footage from the show today. By the time I got there, it was already afternoon, and the show ends at 3, and it takes me a while to go through all the boxes and go through the vendors and talk with all the people that I know. And by the time I got around to the second loop, when I was getting ready to kind of wrap up and then start doing the footage, I realized, wow, there were a lot of vendors already. By 2:30, they were starting to pack up and get out of there a little early. Some of them had a drive. And I know one of the dealers that I ended up buying from was from Fredericksburg, Virginia. That's a little bit of a drive. And if you guys know anything about the D.C. Virginia corridor going down from D.C. to Richmond, it can be a pretty long drive in the traffic. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. So I'm sure those guys were eager to try to get out of there just a little bit earlier. But there were other vendors that were packing up, so I didn't get a chance to really dive in for a second time, and I definitely didn't have time to go around and shoot footage today. So this is just going to be a show and tell. I'm going to talk about the books that I bought and about the 3 vendors that I ended up buying from. Now, the first vendor that I bought from is one of my favorite people there. It is Jimmy from Battlefield Comics. He sets up just about every one of these Maryland shows that I go to, and he is somebody I've talked about before. We are very attuned to cleaning and pressing our books and what we can get out of them, what we think we can do to them. And I love shopping with him because he has always a ton of comics, that a lot of run fillers if you want the stuff like that, but he also has some better keys, and I always buy something from him, and I've got some books right here, so let's just get into it. So the first book, I bought 2 of the same book here, was New Teen Titans number 34. Now, this right here, if you recognize it, is classic George Perez. This is actually this is the first full appearance of Deathstroke on a cover. It is his 4th appearance overall. And I just remember loving this cover when it came out. I've had multiple copies of this in the past, and I've gotten the 2 really good copies I've got right now. I have gotten signed by George Perez back in the day and Marv Wolfman. So those are some nice treasures in the PC. But I ended up picking this up right here. And just about every book I picked up in from this vendor and from all the other vendors are all really high grade books. 9.8 potential books. Fair market value for a book like this is $180. And that's one of the reasons I picked it up. And we'll go over prices at the end, because this one, you may see a price right here, but I ended up getting a pretty good deal at the end from Jimmy. And so I ended up picking 2 copies of this up. I think both of them right now are, without me going in there and checking the pages and checking the back cover too much, they are both right now 9.8 CGC potential clients. Fair market value, as I said, $180 right now. Now, I also found another Teen Titans key. This is issue number 23. And this is the first appearance of Starfire's sister, Blackfire. But more significantly, it is the first appearance of Adrian Chase, who later becomes the Vigilante in the Titans annual, I believe it's number 2. One of my favorite George Perez comics from the entire New Teen Titans run. I think that was probably my favorite one. So I ended up, right now, a CGC fair market value on this is at 9.8 is $120. It's actually down. About a year ago, this was up a lot further, and I've watched this come down. I got my own personal copy of this, my original copy from the early 80s, graded after I cleaned and pressed it, of course. Got a 9.6 on it, and I was really stoked about that. But over this last year, we've watched the market just decline. And I'll be honest, I sold that 9.6 at a pretty good price at the time. I was able to pick up a 9.8 from Heritage Auctions, even with all the fees on top of it, for less than what I ended up selling that 9.6 for. So I actually own a 9.8 of this currently in the PC. Right now, as I said, $120. That's not too bad. I've seen it go a little bit more, and I've seen it come, obviously, a 9.8. You know, I didn't pay close to, it was close to $100. Now, the other books that I picked up from Jimmy were fun books, books that I'm not really specking on, but books. A couple of these are from my childhood, and absolutely just, they're not really worth doing CGC. I didn't buy them for that. I bought them for the nostalgia. I bought them because I loved them as a kid, and I wanted them back in my PC. And I also bought them because they are high grade. Even without any hardly value on there, they're still high grade books. So the first one, the ones that are left, is Justice League of America. This is issue 219. And actually, I didn't have this. I did have a lot of these issues from the late 190s up until the early 210s, 220s. I didn't have all of them, but this is one I didn't actually have, but it's another George Perez goodness on this. Another George Perez book. I didn't realize how many George Perez books I was picking up today, but this right here was just a fantastic cover, and I hadn't actually read it. So I went ahead and picked this one up. If you wanted a CGC book, this book, I did do the fair market value research. It is about a $75 value. This is a book I'm not going to get graded. It's just for the PC. But the other two are definitely for the PC, and it is fun stuff from my childhood. Marvel's Greatest Comics. This is issue number 40. And actually issue number 43. I'll see if I can put them both right there. And what this is, issue number 40, excuse me, is the first appearance, reprints, I should say, reprints the first appearance of Ulysses Claw. And this one right here, this is issue 43, reprints the first appearance of Claw as we know him, as his supervillain form. And this is actually from Fantastic Four. Which one was it? It was Fantastic Four number 53. And this is issue number 56 from the Fantastic Four. These were 1970s, early 70s books that reprinted the entire, well, most of the Fantastic Four run. And these were books that I got off the newsstands when I was 5, 6 years old. And just absolutely, I remember especially this Claw cover right here, just being fascinated by this. And I'd open up this book and I had no idea what was going on. And you got my first glimpse. Well, I shouldn't say my first glimpse. I had already known who the Black Panther was, but you had a little glimpse of the Black Panther in there. And I was, of course, reading the Avengers also at the time. So I knew who the Black Panther was. But he was partially in this issue. He helped save the day. So these are definitely childhood books. What did I pay for all these books right here? Jimmy had books for 50% off. He cut me a deal. I think I ended up paying about $15 for all of these. So thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that. You know I'm going to put them in the press, even if they are for the PC. You know me, I want to challenge. When I see books like of that age, these 20 centers, I want to get them into the press, and I want to see what I can do to them and to improve them. Even if I don't send them in the CGC, sometimes I want to make my collection better. Anyway, that is it for Jimmy from Battlefield Comics. I'm going to leave his link in the description down below so you can contact him. But you can find him in just about every show that you're going to find in the Maryland area and down in Northern Virginia. I know he does other shows, but that's where I see him most of the time. So you guys check him out, and I hope you get to see his setup when you go to any of the shows here in Maryland. Okay, so up next, from the next vendor that I bought some books from, was some of my favorite guys that I see at all the shows, especially the Northern Virginia shows, and I see them up in Maryland too. They are Pop-Up Comics, and it is a group of fellows that all sell comics, but they do it together, and they're branded really well. You'll see the logo pop up here on the screen, and I just want to give you guys a shout out for the design and for the branding, because it's very distinctive, and coming from an advertising background and as a designer, I really appreciate that. I picked up some really good books here, and you never know what you're going to find there. They have a lot of brand new books, a lot of copper, bronze, modern, I don't see a lot, there's not a lot of older books, but that's okay because they've got some fire in their bins, and you can find some really good gems and really good quality. Books I've bought from them before, I have worked on a little bit. I remember a Marvel 2-in-1 54 that I got a 9. I ended up with a 9.6 on that book. We looked at the book. In fact, that was the first book I think I picked up from you guys. And it came out really great. It is a wonderful PC book. And so I keep going back and got some great books today. So first up right here is a classic from my childhood. It is Tales to Astonish #1. And at this point, this is in the 70s, they were reprinting these from the original Submariner comic book from the 60s. They were reprinting this in Tales to Astonish. And this right here, it always catches my eye because you see that cover and the first thing you think of course, is the original. And, you know, I know that it's not. Obviously, it says Tales to Astonish up here at the top, but it is really high grade. My copy was a beater because I read the crap out of that book. And I took a look at this, and I'm sitting there going, I wonder how that would grade out. If there's even a market for it, is it desirable? So, of course, I do a quick look up, and usually my go-to for just a quick fair market value in a situation like that is go collect. And right now, 9.8, if you could pull a 9.8 on something like this, you're talking about $140 value right there. And I'm going, okay, that's pretty good. And plus, the way I do this, I don't just go to a show and I look for books that I want to make money on. I don't do it quite that way. Every book I ended up buying, I would say probably 98% of the books that I buy like this, I buy because they bring back good memories for me. And I like these books, and I want them in my PC, but I don't mind selling them either, because there's always more books to get in the PC. And if you keep a book in your collection for a little bit of time, you know, there's a great enjoyment with that. So this is a book like this that it's part of my childhood. I love this book. I love reading it. Love John Buscema artwork. I think Sal did the inks on the inside. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on that. But as I said, 9.8, $140 value, and it is a super high grade copy. So I can't wait to get this one into the press. Next up is a classic. You guys, if you have watched and followed my channel for over the last year, you know that one of my projects is working on the Mike Zeck Kraven's Last Hunt run in the 3 Spider-Man books of the time. Amazing Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, and Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man. And this one right here was the very first issue in Kraven's Last Hunt. It is Web of Spider-Man number 31. It's the first issue in that. And it ended up having, right now, this is a super high grade copy. Again, this is what I'm looking for. If this had a tick off to the side, especially in some of those black areas that picks it up so easy, I wouldn't have picked it up. So I picked this up right here. Fair market value on a book like this is $280, and that's pretty much true because I've got a copy of that. I'm working on a 9.8 collection for myself for my own PC, but if I have additional ones of this, I will sell them. But I do keep I want a full copy of all 6 of these in the collection. I'm about halfway there. We're working on, I've got a couple 9.6s and some placeholders that I'm holding on to. But this one right here, I know I've got a 9.8 sitting in the PC. This is a book I'm going to work on, and we're getting a 9.8 out of this. I'm pretty confident. Oh, and while I'm thinking about it, let me stop. So you see a $20 price tag on here. Everything was about 25% off on these particular books. So a book like this cost me about $15. That's a pretty good return if you can pull that 9.8 right there. And going back to the Tales to Astonish, now you see a $40 price tag. It ended up being, I want to say about $30, I think, if I did the math right. So $30 for that, $140 investment. That doesn't have the greatest margin that I would like on some of these. But again, I'm buying books a lot of times that has enough margin that I can put some money into it. And if I want to sell it, I can definitely make some money at it. But it's also, like I said, childhood favorite. Okay, last book. And this is a book, it was weird. I literally started seeing this book on the wall at the show when I walked in. I walked around a little bit before I stopped off at Pop-Up, and I saw this book on the wall, and it's a favorite because I've got it in the PC. I've got the whole run of these. And what I'm talking about is Johnny Quest. This is from the 80s. This is part of the run from Comico or Comico. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I always said Comico. And I've got this. I was buying a lot of books in the late 80s. I was in college, and I was buying Elementals. I remember Elementals was a big one. But Johnny Quest was a childhood favorite, watching the reruns of the 1960s cartoon on TV. And I think the original creator was the artist on the very first issue. I don't know how the artist went after that. I don't remember that, but I do remember this. This right here was a Dave Stevens cover. Just absolutely gorgeous. He's got his good girl art. I believe this is Jade, and just absolutely fantastic cover. And I felt like that was a pretty good price on there. It was $20, so it knocked it down to about $18.75, $17. It got a little bit of a discount on there. Actually, it was in 19. So this right here shocked me when I did a quick lookup on it, because the grade looks really good, but a fair market value on this book in particular, number 5, Dave Stevens cover, $325. And when I saw that, I'm going, okay, I can take that in the shop. I can work on it, give it a little clean and press, and we'll see if we can get that 9.8. Even at a 9.6, there's still a lot of value in there, a lot of meat on the bones. So I'm excited about this. This one right here has a lot of value. Again, guys, we are adding value to these books, and we'll see how it goes. I will eventually dig this out of the PC and take a look at the whole run, see how my conditions are. I may have to hold on to this one for a while, though. So, all right, that was it from Pop-Up Comics. Guys, you can check out their information. I'm going to put it in the description in the video here, and how you can get in touch with them. And I encourage you guys to reach out to them because they have fantastic books. And I want you to check out the video I did of their shop, their setup at the Antique Mall down in Warrenton, Virginia. Go back a couple episodes and you will see that video and what I picked up from there. Because they literally just put new stock in there, so there's all kinds of brand new books down there. I may have to make another trip pretty soon. Okay, so the last vendor that I ended up buying from, and they certainly weren't the least, they had some really good books there, and they were running a nice 50% off sale, so I took a look at the prices when I picked these up, and I jumped on them. One of them I think was a really fantastic deal. The other ones are good deals. But they are Gateway Comics out of Fredericksburg, Virginia. I think this is the first time that I've seen them. But I definitely will be checking out. I believe they have a store down in, as I said, in Fredericksburg, Virginia. I'm going to stop there on the next trip I make down 95. I look forward to that and seeing what all other books that they have. But I picked up some really good books. They are definitely in my wheelhouse, and you will recognize these if you follow this channel at all. You know I love these books because here is another one of my projects. What I'm talking about is Batman Year One. And right here, I ended up picking up 2 smoking clean copies of Batman 404, the very first issue of Year One by Frank Miller and Dave Mazzarelli. Had it marked at $50, which is a really super high price, but the 50% basically took it down to $25, and that's still probably a little too high, but it's in that range where I'm still comfortable getting them, especially when I see how clean these books are, especially these spines over here. I have had great luck with this particular book, getting 9/8 out of it, and I think I can pull 9/8 on both of these. I own a 9/8 of this. In fact, of the 4 issues, the only one that I don't have a 9/8 of right now, I do have 9/6s of all of them too, is the last issue, and we'll get to that in a second. But this right here, fair market value with a 9.8 is currently sitting at $180. If you go on eBay with recent sales, you've seen it go a little bit higher than I've seen it, up to $200 to $225 right now for a 9.8 on these. So this is actually a very desirable book. People love the Frank Miller Batman Year One. Just an absolute classic. I was happy to pick these up. These are actually the last 2 books I picked up at the show. They were already getting ready to leave. The other 2 books I'd already bought, but I made, on that second trip when I saw everybody was leaving, I went back and okay, where's the Batman box? I got to get in there because I put them back at the time. I wasn't sure I was going to get them because I knew I was going to get other things at the show. And I didn't want to go heavy on this at that particular time, just in case I wanted to pick up something else caught my interest. But I went back, picked these up. Can't wait to get these in the shop. Okay, so we just mentioned Batman Year One, and what did I say? The last issue was 407. This right here, I have not been able to get a 9.8 on. I've gotten my 9.6. I've got one that I picked up at a show a few weeks ago that it's already ready to go, but I saw this right here, and they had a $25 price tag on this and knocked it down to $12. So I paid $12 for this, and I hadn't really been considering selling this one yet because I want that 9.8 in my PC. So I wasn't worried about fair market value, but of course for this video, I'm going to look it up and I'm going to give you this information. And I was a little shocked. This right here is a $250 fair market value right now. And I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that. So I'm glad I've got another one in the shop too, because that one was as clean as this one. This one looks really nice. If I get two 9.8s, well, no, if I can get a 9.8, obviously one's going to stay in the collection, one will be for sale. So excited about that. Again, these are books, these Batman Year Ones are books in my wheelhouse. I have been looking and buying and selling and cleaning and pressing these for over the last year. I will continue to pick these up if I find them at good prices. Again, this was a great price on this. The other one was a good price, a little bit on that high range, I think, and I would have never bought that book for $50, I can tell you that. Okay, so the last book that I picked up at the show was one that I mentioned in my last show that I did, where I looked on it on somebody's wall and I'm going, God, I want that book. I want that in my PC. I've got a good copy. When I say good, I don't mean good as in the grade, but it's a really decent copy, but I know it has some spine ticks. As an Avengers collector my whole life, it's always been my #1 book growing up. Collect Avengers, collect Avengers, collect Avengers. And I had this book, loved the cover, but I've been looking for a really good copy, and right now, as the market's down, I think the prices are down. So I jumped on this, and it's one of those that I think I can score big with a little bit of love to it, but it is a great copy of it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Avengers 196, first appearance of Taskmaster. And first full appearance, I should say. I believe he has a cameo in 195. I'm not sure. But here we go again. George Perez artwork. Absolute goodness. He was on fire back when he was doing the Avengers as well. Who am I kidding? He was on fire all during the 80s and the late 70s. Absolutely just fantastic book. Love the character. He's very popular. This is where it all began. And I'm happy to have this in the PC. They had a $200 price tag on this, which, being in the condition it is, there's nothing wrong with the spine over here. The corners are super sharp. I see no defects right now. At $200, I would have looked at it and considered it, because a fair market value, if you could pull a 9.8 on this, it's over $1,000 currently. In this market, a down market, a 9.8 on this is still around that $1,000 fair market. Now, that doesn't mean that if you went out there and tried to sell it, you could get that, because it's an average. Go Collect is an average. And I'm not sure what the period they do. I think that's one of the criticisms, is that they go over too long of a time for what a fair market value is. But you can also see recent sales. So you could probably see this in that $800 to $900 range. Former sales. I'm sure I didn't write that down, but I know that you'll have that range of prices. 9.6 right now is still around $290, and I'm going, this is a great copy. And when they reduce this down to $100, I'm going, give me the book. Give me the book. I'm going to take this. This is what I was looking for. That was in that price range. It was better than what I was expecting to pay for it. I had looked at this book, not from this dealer, from another dealer a few weeks ago. Actually, it was a week ago, and it was on my shopping list. It was top of mind when I went into that show, and when I saw this book from this dealer and took a look at it, I just jumped on it, especially with that price point. So super happy with this. I'm super happy with the books that I picked up from Gateway Comics from Fredericksburg, Virginia. I will put their information in this video as well, so you can check those guys out. I will check them out when the next time I go down 95 and I stop off in Fredericksburg. I know they got a great Cracker Barrel there, so I'll stop for lunch and I have to go find the comic shop. But if they got books like this in their shop and good with prices and we can negotiate, I think I'll find a new honey hole, as Moneyball Comics likes to call them. We'll find out though. Okay guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed these books. Do you think I made some good deals in this? Did I overspend on these? I gave you prices on this. You can go back and you can see if I overpaid for them. Know that the way I do this is I look at most books as if I'm going to take them, clean and press them, add value to the books by getting them into CGC in most cases, or some cases, and adding a lot of value. Book like this, man, the potential is fantastic for a fantastic return. So that's a great example of this. Even the lesser books, there's a lot of value in that. This is what I do on this channel for the most part. I look at books that I love, that I grew up loving, and books that I want in the PC, but books I don't mind selling too. So I also hope that you guys will check out each one of my vendors: Gateway Comics, Battlefield Comics, and Pop-Up Comics. You can find Gateway down in Fredericksburg, Virginia. You can find Pop-Up and Battlefield at local shows, definitely here in the Northern Virginia and in Maryland throughout the year. And we have shows up here. In fact, we have multiple shows each month sometimes. So you can find books, and we have other great dealers too that come in. So you can always find great comics here in the Maryland area. It's very exciting to go to these shows and seeing what you can find. I think I found some really good books in this one. I'm super happy with it. Again, I can't wait to get it into the shop and get these things clean and pressed and get at least some of these, especially this one right here, in the CGC. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked today's video, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you for the next show. Take care, guys.